Now from Fox, I do want to bring into the conversation Neama Rahmani, friend of the program, former federal prosecutor here on Live Now from Fox. And of course, the Trump lawyers say the guardrails were thrown aside. Did we come off the rails during this Stormy Daniels testimony today?
Andy, we did come off the rails today, but I have to disagree with the defense. It was their problem. They are supposed to object in a timely manner. They failed to do so. If you do not object, those objections are usually waived on appeal. You can't fail to object and then later ask for a mistrial. Appellate courts will only grant it if there is clear error. There was a lot of evidence today that should not have come in. The fact that Donald Trump and Melania sleep in separate beds, the missionary position, the condom, these are all things that really have nothing to do with whether the business records were false in this case. But the defense did a very poor job. They should have been objecting at every possible turn. They failed to do so, so they should only be pointing the finger at themselves.
Yeah, and it was going to be interesting because I think during this case, Judge actually said that maybe the defense should have been objecting a little bit more. Does maybe the judge, is that normal at all for a judge to say, maybe you should have objected more?
It's not at all normal because the judge's job is to be the umpire calling balls and strikes to decide whether an objection should be sustained or overruled. So even the judge in this case is saying, why aren't you objecting? Why are you allowing these questions? Why is this evidence coming in? Absent an objection, the judge isn't supposed to step in the defense attorney's role and do their job for them. Very poor day for the defense here. An incredibly bad look for Donald Trump. Setting aside what happened in the courtroom with those jurors, the court of public opinion, we all heard the sordid details of this affair, and frankly, we shouldn't have.
Yeah, and I do want to ask you, because when they put Stormy Daniels on the stand, and of course, she's kind of the center of this case as well, she's kind of an unpredictable witness for both the prosecution and the defense, and maybe the prosecution is hoping this goes in this direction. Is that something, as a prosecutor, that potentially when you put Stormy Daniels on the stand, you're hoping it goes in this uncertain, unpredictable, salacious direction?
Possibly, but possibly she's a witness that you can't control because, Andy, frankly, she was not a very good witness. She was all over the place. She's telling jurors that she wants to tell her story, and she kept saying that, well, you took $130,000 not to tell your story. So how does that make any sense? And then she denied the affair, and she's had to explain why now she's admitting the affair. She obviously has a financial motive because she sued Trump for defamation and owes him more than $500,000 in fees. So this was not a good witness for the prosecution, but she was also so damaging to Donald Trump politically that maybe the whole plan was just to dirty him up, and that's what happened today.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. Like you mentioned, just kind of all over the place, weaving back and forth. But you also mentioned the term, the details and the credibility, because those details potentially lead to it. How maybe does that add to some credibility? Will witnesses come down the line to maybe corroborate some of the things that Stormy said she saw in the apartment for Trump, to corroborate maybe a little bit of her testimony? Will witnesses come down the road that can maybe corroborate some of what Stormy said?
I think that's very important, Andy. She testified that she had conversations with Trump on speakerphone, and there were other people present. I would want those independent witnesses to come and testify to corroborate her story. Folks that she told about the affair around the time of the affair, not, a decade or two later. That's important in a case like this. And really kind of taking a step back, the reason I thought this was so damaging is really, it doesn't matter whether Donald Trump had an affair with Stormy Daniels. As far as the merits of the case, the business records are what at issue here. Were those payments to Michael Cohen, were they legal expenses like they were categorized, or something else? Whether the affair happened or not really isn't that relevant, doesn't matter as far as the charges are concerned, but all that dirty evidence and disturbing details. They all came in today and really was unnecessary.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about what the prosecution potentially got out of Stormy Daniels. We'll get into what the defense said, but I thought maybe a striking moment was they were talking about if Stormy was asked if Trump was trying to protect Melania, and she said no. How damning was that kind of moment in court?
It was damning, and we saw Hope Hicks testify last week that maybe Donald Trump was trying to protect his wife and hide the newspaper articles from her. But you have Stormy Daniels testifying that Trump didn't care about Melania. He had unprotected sex with her. She even described this kind of Harvey Weinstein type situation where she was afraid to leave the hotel room. And I'm not suggesting that in any way this was not consensual and it was a sexual assault, but having that out there, get testimony that she was threatened by someone in the parking lot not to tell her story and that she was afraid of Donald Trump and couldn't leave. Really damaging testimony if you believe Stormy Daniels today.
Yeah, if you believe Stormy Daniels today is going to be a big component of what's going on in a lot of the jury's mind as well. I do want to ask you, because we're talking about this and what the defense, obviously, they see after the prosecution goes through all of the cross-examination. What were they trying to paint Stormy Daniels as today?
Very aggressive and very effective cross-examination. And obviously, the defense has a lot of material to prepare for, because Stormy Daniels has been all over the place when it comes to her statements. She's testified inconsistently. She's lied to reporters. She maybe have even lied to her own attorney or someone that she was consulting with, lawyer, already. And these inconsistencies have all come out. And then there's that financial motive. The defense, I think, successfully argued that Stormy Daniels has made a lot of money and profited both personally and professionally from this affair with Donald Trump. And she has more than 500,000 reasons to want him convicted, because maybe if he goes away, then she doesn't have to pay him. So between the inconsistencies and the lack of credibility and the financial motive, I think the defense is scoring a lot of points. So like you said, Andy, I think the state really needs to corroborate her testimony with independent, unbiased witnesses going forward.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting, because you talked about just the money there, and they were asked if they think Trump should go to jail for this, and Stormy just said they hope they hold him accountable for this. So it's very, very interesting as well. And Stormy will return to the stand after a one-day hiatus. They're off tomorrow. They're back on the stand for Thursday. What's going through both the prosecution's mind, the defense's mind over the next couple days as they potentially prepare to continue to get more testimony from Stormy?
If you're the prosecution, you just hope that the testimony ends or you can rehabilitate her somehow, because she's on the stand and she was testifying before court adjourned today, and she's admitting to not disclosing her finances and not providing information to the court. And she says she's willing to go to jail rather than pay Donald Trump. I mean, this is not helpful for the prosecution. And if you're the defense, you're going to continue to come after her. Now you have an extra day to prepare for your cross, and it's going to be brutal. Hopefully, if you're the prosecution, the Stormy Daniels that we see on Thursday is a lot better than the person who testified today.
Yeah, the star witness for the prosecution was very star-studded. It got a lot of the spotlight as well. I do have to ask you, before we change subjects here on LiveNOW from Fox, about Trump, because he comes out after these cases every single day and speaks to the media, speaks to the camera. And today he didn't really mention Stormy Daniels. Does that indicate anything to you? And maybe do the prosecutors watch those minute, 2-minute press conferences every day to see what if they're getting to Trump or not?
I think they do. One, they want to see if he violates the gag order again, and they want to see how he's reacting. I mean, he did not appear happy today. He has to feel like he's embarrassing his wife. And no matter what, there's a certain percentage of the American people that will always love Donald Trump and believe him no matter what. But there have to be some conservative elements that have to be turned off by some of this behavior. So setting aside this case, politically, this may be damaging to him. Now, obviously, Donald Trump is an enigma, and no matter what happens in the courtroom, he seems to get a bounce in the polls. So maybe he'll ride this case to victory. But if I were Trump, I would be worried about the presidency and my family after today.
Yeah, certainly making headlines, and sometimes that is the best news for Trump. Sometimes it buoys him a little bit higher. All right, Neama, before I let you go here on Live Now from Vox, I do want to kind of bring in some potentially breaking news. We're following around another case involving the former president. I want to put up this tweet right now about Linda Schmidt saying the judge in Trump's classified documents case cancels the May trial date. No new date is set. And of course, this revolves around the special counsel Jack Smith's investigation, postponed indefinitely on Tuesday, about potentially willful retention of classified documents. This isn't surprising, though, is it, to see it? Because there's so many different facets between the top secret, the classified nature of this. When could we see a trial potentially in this?
I don't think we're going to get a trial date before the election, Andy. And Judge Shannon respectfully seems inexperienced, in over her head. She's made a series of bizarre rulings that have already been reversed by the conservative 11th Circuit twice. And we know that these cases are put on hold while the presidential immunity argument is pending before the Supreme Court. So that's we're not going to get a decision until the end of the court's term at the end of June, early July. So at the earliest, we would resume them, but I don't think we're anywhere near ready for trial there in South Florida.
Yeah, it's a very complicated case, and of course, the top secret, the sensitive materials that are potentially in those documents, causing a little bit of a hurdle as well. All right, Neama Rahmani, thank you so much for breaking it all down today. It was a wild day. That might be the understatement of the day here in court in New York City.
Yes, historic day, Andy. Thanks for having me.